This is IBM Museum. On this video, even to the series of videos that I may have to do, you're going to see me looking up a little bit. And that's because I have the screen capture on the larger screen that's above my desk. It's just too much information to fit on the little screen in front of me. So you'll have to adapt to that. But this is a video that I'm going to try and record some content on Windows Vista running on a Lenovo ThinkCentre system. And that's the miniature system. I have one opened up above me too, so I can actually look up and see that too. And I have Vista installed. One of the big questions is, are you able to activate Windows Vista in this day and age? And the answer to that is yes. Less than an hour ago, I went through the activation for this Windows Vista system, and the phone activation still works. It will lead you through a step and even suggest the text or the SMS based activation. And even though the initial screens show that that's not a possibility, it will present that information to you at some point and ask you if you want to do that. If you're calling from a you want to call from a mobile phone able to accept SMS messages. And normally what they'll do is they'll send you a link, and you just click on that link on your system and go through the steps. So you put in the numbers that you see on the screen. That way you don't have to go through and use your phone keypad, or going through and reading and making sure you're getting the numbers in there correctly. It's a little bit more leisurely. And I've gone through that process for the last few Windows activations I've done, and that's worked well enough for me. On this system, and I can't remember on the basic Vista install whether it gave me the Ethernet drivers and the display adapter drivers, and that's a built-in display. But at least grab those, you can grab those off the internet on another system to put on. And as long as you have the Ethernet drivers, you can get in there and get get the system online to get all the other updates for the system. And especially in the cases like a BIOS update is what I'm going to be dealing with. Because the primary thing is I've got two systems of this, and one of them is off on the go the other way here, is off to my right behind me, and it's identical to the one that I have opened up above me, and that's a Core Duo system. In the system that's closed up that I have off here to the right, it doesn't have the hard drive carrier. I got these systems here locally, basically was just dropped as scrap to me. And of course I went through on this system and I just installed a fresh copy of the Windows Vista that you see in that image, and I've got a 64-bit version of Windows Vista that I have with the other system that I'm going to go through and install. I've put the RAM memory on this system here that I've got running right now. I've increased that to the maximum of 4 GB on that, and that's in 2 SIMs. There's 4 DIMMs. Larger capacity with the newer systems. I've been too used to working with the older systems here recently, and I've gone through with those 4 DIMM slots that are visible. They're green and blue there on the system I have opened. And I've got 2 gigabyte modules that are in those positions. On this other unit, I have where I'm going to populate all 4 sockets with 2 gigabyte DIMMs apiece. So get up to the system maximum of 8 gigabytes of RAM, and for that 64-bit version of Windows Vista. So the other aspect, as I say, that doesn't have the drive carrier in it. And so I want to go through and I want to attempt, and this will be my first attempt, so it's going to be a little bit of a learning experience for me as well, to install an SSD drive, solid state drive, using the SATA connections on that system. It's a Kingston SSD, and you really need to look at some of those out there. The prices are really coming down to a decent capacity SSD being very economical now. Now, the very oldest operating system that you want to run these on is Windows Vista. And that's why I say it's going to be a little bit of a learning experience for me to make sure it's set right and I have the latest BIOS and everything else on the system. Windows 7, it becomes less of an issue because that supports SSD natively, and it's just a little bit less problem, as it were, on that operating system. But we'll see if we can get it on Vista. Now, one of the first things I also did was to get Google Chrome, and I have to remember one of the first things I need to turn off or to lengthen time is the screensaver. It just goes through and blanks the screen, I think, at this point, after probably 5 minutes of inactivity. And so I went through and I've got Google Chrome, even though that is not being updated any further. And you're going to have a little bit of trouble because even the older Chrome versions, you can't go through. And I've found that you can't sign into your Google account, especially if you've got in the instance where you've got a just a complex password, of course, as you should have. And it just goes through and it tells you it couldn't sign you in, so upgrade to a newer version of Chrome. And that's just not possible with Windows XP and Vista. Therefore, I've gone to having Firefox. And even though the browser level can only go so high with Firefox, at least it has some functionality to it. And with the Internet Explorer, and I think it goes up to, on Vista, it goes up to like Internet Explorer 11. And you're going to have the same issues there with security certificates and things like that. Now, one of the first steps I want to do as well, and I think it requires a reboot, but you want to turn off the UAC, user access control, on Windows Vista, or it's gonna bug you to death. It's gonna prompt you with all the dialogues. Do you want to continue? Do you want to continue? Do you want to go to the next page? So I'll go through the steps for that, and then I'm going to try and get this online through Firefox to see if we can get all the latest drivers and everything else from the Lenovo site. In this case, the system, Lenovo still does some pretty good support on systems that are end of life or treated as the legacy products, and we'll see how good that support is as well. Now, also to my right, I still have, just kind of out of view here, and I've got it opened up too, is a slightly older system, and that's a Pentium 4 that I went through and put XP on. I'll probably have to reload XP. It does have a diskette drive, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted to have it here, was for the fact of running XP and having that diskette drive so I could make things like the reference diskettes. Even wanted to start showing, making a reference diskette for the NCR systems. I have that, I think it's the 34, maybe 3334 that we saw earlier, that kind of resembles the IBM PS2 Model 50 I said on the interior. And I'm going to go through, and I've got a Dallas module ready to replace for it. We're certain it's a DS 1287, so I'm not going to run into the same things with that 3220 unit that has the 1387, the DS 1387 real-time clock chip with extra non-volatile RAM on it. But I want to demonstrate making those reference diskettes on screen, doing the same thing with a video capture. But the fan on the power supply is out, and where I source these systems from, they had these computers around the front desk, and it was a motel operation. And when the unit stopped operating, all they did is they just threw it in the back room and got another unit ready, or had their tech support bring in another unit, and they left those units as is. So it looks like this one, and I was operating it for short periods of time, but I don't want to operate it for any length of period of time without that fan. And as I commented on a previous video, that the fan is a little bit narrower. It's 20 millimeter fan in thickness, an 80 millimeter fan that's 20 millimeters in thickness. And normally your 80 millimeter fans are 25 millimeters thick on your power supplies. Very common power supply fan on computers. And just with the smaller power supply, they have that thinner fan. So I finally shopped around, and I found one. I even thought it was going to beat the DIMM modules I had ordered for the unit as well, because they were delayed quite a long time and probably took close to a month to get to me. But those arrived the other day. The fan was supposed to arrive at the end of the week and was delayed. I'll probably get it tomorrow, and can go through and try and do a video on that. I'm not going to be doing any soldering or anything like that with the DC, the power connection for the fan going into the supply. I'm not able to access very deeply in there to, and I'll probably just splice the connections rather than go through and solder the wires to a PCB inside the power supply. I just can't get at the ends of those leads. So that was a little bit delayed, or I would have done that video as well. But let's go through. Let's start working with the UAC and get that off. If there's any long segments here, I mean, like I say, when I go through and if I have to do a whole bunch of driver downloads, I'll go through and I'll pause the video so we just don't get into any length. I mean, I've already gone through almost, gained up close to 15 minutes of recording time just sitting here talking away so far. So I need to get started with demonstrating some of this stuff as well. So let me go through and go to the steps of the UAC, which is going into control panel, into your user accounts, user accounts. And we have it down here, the turn user account control off. And this is the dialogues I'm talking about, where it prompts you, if you start the section, continue. Yeah, I started it. And you can get the details and all that. Help stop unauthorized changes. It's just something that Microsoft chose to do at the time. And of course, we need to uncheck this box. Click on OK. And let's see how this screen capture is going to restart. That might be interesting. Okay. We'll see what we have for the boot time. Okay. Okay. And you can go through and also hide this, have it to where it doesn't go through and run this at startup. But we get to see the, and you can go into the details, but it just shows us the basics here of the CPU, speed, the amount of RAM memory, and the computer name. And of course, I don't have this on the domain here either. Now, one of the things that I want to look at first before we start up Firefox, just to kind of demonstrate this, is getting into, right-clicking on My Computer Properties. And I guess I could have gone through the show details, and it would have brought up the same screen. Yeah, it's set to some work group. I think that's the default, and that's fine. So I've gone through, and I have the direct drivers for, of course, to get online, to have that Ethernet, or in this case, a gigabit Ethernet connection work. And then I've gone through and, of course, have all the display drivers running correctly, too, just so I get this nice, pretty screen that we've got displayed up here. And but there's, mainly the serial port, information, a little bit of the motherboard stuff here, because it looks like it recognizes that serial port that's on. I know that it's on the motherboard, and I don't have any adapters, and it's low profile adapter set for these units as well. And you can see that PCI slot just right at the bottom here, that white slot right below the hard drive in the carrier. But we're going to go through and go to the Lenovo site and see what we can do for updates, and to see what they have for the latest BIOS version and stuff like that as well. So, and I'm not aware if they have, and see, it looks like I've gone through on this one. In fact, it might be good to, because I've gone, and I wonder if I might have already even downloaded some of these. Okay, yeah, so which is the BIOS? I might just have to grab these again just to be sure what they... Okay, so the BIOS... Okay. And I wonder if I've got to minimize my... Because I'm trying to remember. Is there, oh, there's it's going to be a challenge to get at that. Let me see if I can move that. That up a little bit. And what files do we have? Okay. Yeah, I think we went through for the, okay, USA, 77 USA zip. Okay, or did I go through? In any regard, it's the 77 USA. Okay, so that is the in Windows. Okay. Okay. It'd be interesting if I already extracted this too. Lenovo tools. I mean, I extracted some of them. Yeah, there's that. Okay. 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 External power, make sure not running any other applications. They're just trying to be cautious here. Oh, and I already had that downloads window open. Okay. Okay. And I guess if it, I haven't run this process before on this machine, and of course I'll do it for the next one. And what I could even do, and I think these even have a, you saw it's a DVD drive, but I think it's a CDR drive as well, that I could pull out a CDR disc, a compact disc recordable, and actually grab all the files that I would need for the other system as well. Even though I have to make sure I get the, if it comes down to it, that I get the 64-bit version, but I could even have that CDR split into, you know, keep something I want to save away for the systems to support it, and have a 32-bit section and a 64-bit section to be able to easily restore drivers to the system if I had to. And we're already about halfway there. And as it says, it may go through and want to reboot at the end of this. And these are nice little compact systems. I mean, I'll have them for little chores around here. I wanted to, I haven't had a Vista system running in a little bit of time. And we just let it automatically restart. It does. Yep. And I want both to have a 32-bit version and a 64-bit version. And in case people haven't noticed, I'm not a real virtual kind of guy, virtual PC or, and I need to learn that. It's helpful too. In fact, I have another ThinkCentre that's a lot newer. I think an i7 CPU on there that I can put quite a bit of RAM, and it didn't have an OS, and I probably need to go through and get some sort of setup that I can do to virtualize some of the operating systems too. And okay, just remember where we're at. Okay. And we go down through to our history again. Oh, that's not the right one. I guess that's what it showed before, but, and that looks more like my, I've even got a Windows 10 system at home that is more of that case style. And it's, I think that's an i5 or an i7. So, chipset. Okay, so this is the universal version for and it's been 13 years since these updates were last done. Look way up there at that downloads, and I'd already got that file before, but that's fine. Maybe I even went through and it's extracted them that I was going to get to it on my own. So I wonder, let's go through, cancel that. Let's dip into, use the software tools. If we've gone through, okay, so there I have the Ethernet and video. Trying to remember. Oh, okay, this is that. Okay, I already did the Roxio setup too. So I need to, yeah, I've extracted the Ethernet and the video. And I think I went through and I downloaded the other, maybe downloaded the other drivers I was thinking that I'd need. Okay. And we're going to see what this fixes for the those things that were flagged in Device Manager. And I didn't explain that, you know, going through for the primary reason of me going through on this 32-bit Windows Vista version that I have set up is to make sure that I had, since the other system is identical except for that lack of that hard drive carrier, and that would be the part that I would be putting into that system, I wanted to make sure with this system, with the BIOS and everything else, that it's got the right settings that I could put on the system when I go through to put that SSD drive in. And like I say, I'll probably, and that may be a portion of this video segment, to go through and just get a CDR disk and burn all the drivers to a CDR, and that way I have them all ready to go for the other system, and they're identical otherwise. So stop sleeping on the job here. Okay, and yes, we want to restart. Pull that back down. Okay. And let's look in Device Manager again. So that's right click on my computer, properties. And notice we didn't have the initial splash screen come up that time with the little startup items and things like that. So it's still flagging the PCI serial port and PCI simple communications controller. We'll have to see if that's where it is. Now, in addition to the activation, you know, there's the update process as well, and Windows Vista's end of life, and those update servers, that's all gone away of what I've heard. Even went away a year ago. And so this Windows Vista on the DVD installation, and Windows Vista was the first operating system to commercial operating system to be installed via DVD disc, and it had Service Pack 1 in the in that installation. Okay. Get in there. And these ThinkCentres, even IBM later on, they had some that were in the tower cases that had a little bit more room, probably a higher wattage power supply. So they had a bunch of different little form factors. And I went through and I put in the serial number for those of you that experience with like the Dell, the service tags. Same thing. Okay, so we did networking, LAN, display and video. I don't know. I don't really know what. Here's something we can try as well. And I should have tried this earlier too. Okay, drivers are not sold. See, I can't figure out why it identifies. And sometimes this process can take a long time. But it's got one serial port that's built into the motherboard. I don't want to do that. I doubt if it's going to be in that chipset. Window, or that directory, but who knows? Drivers. So now we've got that chipset. Okay. And I mean, I could go through and figure that out or disable it for all that. Okay. There's not a modem or anything else. That's why I typically see that simple communications controller a lot of the time refers to a modem of that day and age. So we may be otherwise with this system up to date, right at right below 40 minutes of recording time. So we might be doing good for the setup of this. And sometimes I was having trouble. I know for and remember Vista, you're better off because it goes through and suspends if you just do this power button a long time, and then you have the lock button and stuff like that. But we're going to go through restart, and I think it's the enter key, the appropriate point. We'll have to see if we can get into the BIOS settings. Maybe I'll have some response on the comments. I may just go through and throw this up. Okay. So enter to pause. Okay, BIOS setup utility. Okay. There's our system summary. And we have our BIOS version in there, and not too bad. 9 years, out of date. And I should have all the system time, all that stuff. I don't know why I'm not. Okay, so serial port set up. Maybe this will help. Port A enabled. See, that's that built-in serial port. And I think otherwise I went with all the defaults. Hell, a lot of USB ports. I think those are just the USB 2. For that time. And this is where we want to look for that. Okay, so serial. And this even has an external SATA port as well. Native mode operation. Change values. Is plus and minus. Oh, enabled or automatic. Okay, so, and the one thing that we want to make sure with the SSD drive for the other unit, that we have that SATA AHCI enable. And that's the thing to, the primary thing to be concerned with. And I'm just interested on pre-delay. Huh. Okay, it goes all the way to settings, all the way up to 30 seconds for some of the settings. I don't think I need to delay anything there. Audio support disabled. And I can't. Oh. Enabled. So maybe we'll get kind of a setup when it goes through and identifies. There's my MAC address. Don't record that. It's got those good Intel plug and play. Well, yeah, my system's plug and play. Temporary location, OPROM, legacy free. I'd like to be, I don't want to run legacy free enabled. And these are units you can even set automatic a time for them to automatically power up and things like that. Startup sequence. And don't, for some of the security, you want to be careful setting some of the stuff, because if you don't remember that password, it's going to mean desoldering a chip on the motherboard, and generally that's not going to be an attainable thing anymore. So we're doing quick. All this looks pretty good otherwise. And save changes and exit. I'm just interested in what's going to come up once Vista starts, if it's going to identify that audio setup. And there was a download for it as well. And I don't know why the default was to turn that off or have that disabled. Okay, so there it's identifying okay. That's installed successfully. So I think we're pretty good. There might be some things I can do to get just little nuances that I might have to tune. But I think on the next video, and that I think is I'm gonna do some pauses. That's going to be installation of the OS, going through and putting the SSD drive in. I've got to figure out how I'm going to mount it if I don't have that drive carrier, but who knows? I can go maybe there might be a spot underneath or something else I can do below the below this DVD drive, or fabricate, some sort of carrier. And I think they have the hard drive carrier there just to because they've got the major fan for the unit is here, blowing over the heatsink of the Core Duo. And it's nice and cool. But these are nice little compact systems. And so that hinges out. And the other units are very very similar design, and then the lid, and it's got push buttons on either side to go, and you want to, that's one thing you got to push in that front kind of to get these to seal. You can hear the latch. And these are scuffed up a little bit and everything else, but they still have the all the stickers on them. And they had the stickers on there for the Vista 32-bit, and I had the drive, and it's got a COA on it if I had to use it too. But of course, they're getting the warnings on the antivirus and the Windows Defender, stuff like that. And probably one of the little things to address, and so we're right on 50 minutes. I don't want to, certainly I don't want to go over an hour, but I just kind of leisurely little video here going through. One thing I may cover later on is with an older operating system. You have a system with Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, or older. You know, you could have Windows 3X, Windows 95, Windows 98. If you plug those systems into your internet, you're not going to get much internet as it is, or you're going to have a proxied internet in a lot of instances. It's not going to be able to display current HTML5 pages and things like that. But you know, if I connect those computers to the internet, are they going to get a virus? Are they going to get, you know, somehow people are going to get in to them and take control of them? And really the answer is no. And you want to be careful in a way that if you have some systems, you could have one that has some of the older viruses that it could replicate, or like a worm could replicate between some older systems on the same network. I'm kind of noble for I don't run antivirus much on my own systems, or just a very minimal level. But I'm careful with where I browse, and I've got I use the pfSense firewall, Community Edition in this case, and that, you know, there's been some announcements on that recently. Who knows? I might switch to the OPN Sense firewall instead if I don't see the Community Edition updating the way I like. But I've got a good firewall, and I've got that locked down. I really know my stuff on that angle as well. And my answer to the people that say, well, I connect on an older computer, I'm worried about it getting a virus, or, you know, getting affected, or getting somebody, you know, taking control, and or you know, making it useless over that connection of it going through and doing things. And generally my response to that would be, if you're worried about your older system, how come you're not worried about your newer systems as well? Get a good, decent firewall and protect everything behind your network. Just because your system's newer doesn't mean it doesn't deserve that good firewall protection as well. So that's a little bit of my answer and kind of the philosophy I hit on that. Generally, the newer stuff out there is not going to target older operating systems anyway. It's just not going to be able to run that, you know. And a lot of my daily driver anyway is a Chromebook, and you know, you can't run applications on that, but also viruses don't operate on that as well. And that has its strengths and weaknesses there, but that's what I use. So you can see, I don't know with the high resolution, get this one keyboard off my lap, just to show, you know, I've got the bundled 64-bit version. Yeah, includes Service Pack 1. This disk contains 64-bit software only. This is the 32-bit. Contains only 32-bit. After only those DVDs, nice little DVDs, and a COA that I can activate. And here's the Kingston SSD. And the I guess I could go through and I could even, and then the DIMMs I'm going to put in there. But yeah, like I say, these are nice little units. No diskette drive on them. And there's the back. So yeah, they're nice little units. Two little low profile slots. One's the classic PCI. The other one is the PCI-X. So that's going to be pretty much a wrap. I do have some of the other stuff off to the side that not in enough view on camera. Those are the microchannel and some of the processor boards, and I'm trying to decide on a video that I'll do for that, and then like I say, once I get the Windows XP system running, the ThinkCentre, that's an older IBM system. That's branded IBM. These are marked Lenovo, as you saw. But once I get that, I'll probably do the reference diskettes for the NCR on video. And there's a lot of other content too. But we're still under an hour, and that's a good place to end things. If you like seeing me look up on this video and like the content that I showed, thought it was useful to you, you know, leave a like button. We see the default screensaver go into effect here. That's great. But subscribe to my channel. We'll have all sorts of content. This is getting a little bit newer. I got talking a little bit about my pfSense firewall as well. I have a thought of going, you know, there is the networking side as well. And I've had for months, and I received it and have gone no further with it, but have a very nice IBM bridge in it that's between token ring and Ethernet. And a point of going through and getting that working as well, and maybe even looking at getting set up with the showing kind of the things to a token ring network as well. But that is all I have for now. This video is just getting close to just under an hour in time. But this is IBM Museum. Thank you.